Lab 2, getting started. Lab 2, getting started. Download 2 files. Upload. Load the files. So I'm using WinSCP. I'm going to create a new folder. There's one way to get my own login information with W. Could do that. So you can do that. Who doesn't seem to do that? There's another command I'm not remembering right now, but anyway, those were the two main ones. Run a command that will display the count of the lines in this file. So WC. So here, without any arguments, WC displays it's new line, word, and byte counts for each file. So if I just want the line counts, I can say -L. So there is just the one number and the file name. That looks good. Run a command that will display only the fully spelled month and year of the current system date. Oh, date is fine. So date, first, just run it first. Looks like that. There's a lot of different ways to format the date. Using these percent symbols. So %B, full month name. What was the format we wanted again? Fully spelled month and year. So we want the fully spelled month and what was it, the 4-digit year. Fine, so I'm going to /year, jump to these year options. So then I can press N to cycle through my matches. Yeah, and the most important skill of the course is being able to efficiently use this documentation. Shift N to go backwards. So it looks like I wanted %Y for the year. And it was I think it was a B, wasn't it, for the month?
It was capital B, percent capital B.
Yeah, that's okay. There we go. Capital B for the full month. So date, oh, and then there's another missing piece there. I need to do first, and that is that I need this plus. So I need this plus, and then uppercase, all caps in these synopsis means it's a placeholder for something else. So let's see, date, and then I need the plus to tell it it's going to be format, and then a percent B followed by a percent. What was that for the year? Percent Y or no? It was F, wasn't it? Maybe it was a Y. I think I need to wrap my whole format in quotes, and there we go. So it's a little tricky to get those together, but once you get that the general form is date plus open and close quotations, and then anything you put in here, you can use any combinations of those percent symbols to construct your desired format, and there's all kinds of options. In the touch command, create two files called test1 and test2. Let's go ahead and do that. In this case, I'm going to use the up arrow to conveniently bring that, change it to a 2. Got that done. Oh, I created my lab 2 folder and didn't move anything into it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So MV test 1, test 2, Limbrick, SHS, PSSWD. I don't think I worked with any other files yet. I'm going to move those into lab 2. Always a good practice to use a / when you're moving something into a directory. Sometimes it's smart enough to figure out what you mean, but it's better to be explicit about it. Okay, so now I'm in my lab 2. Do a tar gzip file named tests tar.gz with just these 2 files in it. So I want to create tests.tar.gz. Only these 2 files in it. Okay. So tar, I want to create a file. I want to zip it. Its name is going to be tests.tar.gz. And what I want to put in there is my test, my files that begin with the name test. So let's see how that works. Tar. Anyone remember what letter do I want to list the contents of a tar file?
L?
-V.
E. Remember, it's the last. I want to list. It's a goofy mnemonic.
Oh, okay. It's a CDF.
I want to list the contents of the file, test space. So let's see if I got it. Yes. So it's a weird mnemonic. It's the last letter of list rather than an L. So the other two I think are a little more intuitive. C for create, X for extract. List is a little odd, but once you think of it that way, it's kind of silly, but it is fairly easy to remember as a mnemonic for that one. Let's see. Okay, moving right along. Run a command that will filter out all but those lines in the that do not contain the student. Filter out. Wow, that's all a double negative, isn't it? Filter out all but the lines that do not contain the word student. Ow, my brain hurts. So let's think of this backwards. This file, lines that do not contain the word student, those lines that do not contain the word student, and then it gets negative. Recommend will filter out all but, meaning not, those lines that do not contain the word student. So it's weird because run a command that will filter out all. So filter out all would be filtering everything. So remove all the lines, but those lines that do not contain student. Is that equivalent to saying select lines that do not contain student?
No. It's a double negative, so you can just remove both of the negatives and get the meaning. So you could say run a command that will filter out all the lines that contain the word student.
But those lines that do not contain, filter out all but the lines that do not contain student. Okay. Give it a shot. This will be a funny video for if people watch this. Okay. So grep. We can just construct it literally as written and see what happens. So grep, that's going to be the file. Student is going to be the phrase. So let's start with the easy parts. That's the pattern that we're talking about. The file name is sh okay, so that's our file that's in this folder. Let's take a quick peek at what's there. Okay. And then we want all but those lines that do not contain, filter all but those lines. So I could say V for invert the match. Sorry, I'm gonna use clear to get my prompt off the bottom of the screen there. So there's V, so that's going to be invert matching student. So filter out all but those lines that do not contain the word student. So is that equivalent to just saying the lines that do contain the word student? Is that what you were saying? The double negative?
Like, I was trying to say that you can, since there's a double negative, you can get rid of both the negatives in the original statement.
And then what does that end up with?
You want filter out the lines that contain the word student.
Then that would be invert match. And that would be that interpretation of it. So the dash V means lines that don't contain student. See how that lines up with how it as it's written. I think what makes it confusing to me is the filter out all rather than just saying it should run a command that will select those lines in SH.
Yeah, that's the
where it says
confusing
filter out all but. That phrase itself could condense down to select. That phrase itself is like a compound negative of some kind. So rather than saying run a command that will filter out all but, it could just say run a command that will select those lines that do not contain the word student.
That makes sense.
Filter out all but. So if you ever want to make your audience's head spin in a speech, wow, that was a fun little journey there. Okay. Filter out all but. But the important practical part of this is using the dash V option to invert the sense of matching, which does come up frequently. That's
I could do the I could do this one, but I couldn't do the touch one. I mean numbers exercise 7. Text 1 and text 2. So do I need to make a file first, the text 1 and text 2, and then move it and then
let's see.
Touch file.
Number 7?
Yes.
I think we just did that.
Yes, you did that. Yes.
So just delete everything in lab 2. Start over. Upload that again. Grab the limerick. Sometimes we create two files, test 1 and test 2. Okay? Ready?
Yes.
There's 1. Up
Yeah.
arrow. Change this
Yeah,
1 to a
okay.
2.
I did it.
Now you got all 4 files. Create the archive. Notice it's test star. So this is what to create the archive from. That's using a pattern matching.
I
Tape
think
archive -C
I
for
think I
create.
did it. Yes, yes, I did it now.
I
Oh,
should say,
thank you.
this
Thank
is
you.
actually, sorry. The test star didn't seem to work for me.
Oh, and this star also didn't work for me. Only test worked for me. First, I say write tar dash CGF test tar GZ, and then test 1 and test 2 file. Yeah,
You can do that too.
Test 1 space test 2.
That works also.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll
yes,
try that.
yes. I did this way.
Now one question I asked this thing, how did you get to lab 2 here? I might miss that part.
History. This is where I was saying this is one of the most common things I do. Grep mkdir. So there's the last several times I. Oh, I think maybe what I did, I used my WinSCP and I had just right clicked in here and done create directory. That's why we didn't see it as a Linux command.
Ah, okay.
I was like I was up a directory and I just right clicked and new directory.
All right.
So you can manage files in here the same way you would in Windows Explorer too. Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Sorry, I kind of glossed over that.
It's all right.
Would have been better to do an mkdir command on the server. Oh, here's a good one. 9. Run a command that will display all lines in that file, the password file, sorted in numeric order by the 3rd column. So for sort, remember, it's a delimiter is T, and then key is K. So it's T and K rather than D and F. With cut, it's D for delimiter, F for field. Sort, it's T for delimiter and K for key. A sort key, which is more of a sort term than anything else. Okay, so, and numeric. This is a good one because we'll probably get to see the difference in a numeric sort and not. So sort, let's start by sort. And I'm gonna pipe this into less so it doesn't take over my string of commands every time. So now I can look at the output and then press Q and it brings me back to my same place without taking over my screen. And now what I wanted to do is sort. My field delimiter is a colon, so T colon. The field, which field did it say I want? By the third column. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I used cut. It's a K, the third column. So let's look at this and see if it's what we want. So right now we should have 9. So here's a problem. We're not sorting numerically. So we have 9 sorting greater than 8,871 because it's sorting alphabetically. And alphabetically, 9 is greater than 8. So to actually get this to work correctly, we need to add the -n option. Sorry, I'm going to clear my screen again. It's ends up on the bottom of my screen behind my Zoom tools, and I can't see anything. We need to add that -n option. Now, if we look at it, we got 870, 8870, 8871, 65,000, and it's actually sorting numerically. So that's the difference between a numeric sort and a non-numeric sort. That comes up very frequently. I'll bring up that command so you can see it again. Any questions, comments about that one?
So if I put the sort T and then colon and then -n K3 and file name, it also work for me.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yes, the order doesn't matter. You could have -n. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say.
NK3.
I'm just going to do. I'm going to just pipe it through tail, so we're going to see the last 10, but it won't take over. Yeah, so you can have those options in any order.
Okay, great.
Sometimes order matters if they're like dependent on each other, but typically, let's look at the manual page to see, like here where it says sort and then option ... So the square brackets means options, that part is optional, that you don't have to use any options. The ... means you may include as many options as you want. Now, if some options had to go before others, it would list like those specific options and then another section if some options were required to come before others if they were used. Here, since there's only one section and it's 0 to many, and there's only one option section, it means any of them can be in any order. And then here, 0 to many files can also be applied. Notice if no file, then standard input. So that's what allows you to pipe. When you use the pipe, you can pipe something into the sort command, and then it's getting it from standard input. So I like to, whenever there's a question about what can we do or why can we do something, I like to try and connect it with the documentation. Let's see. 10, run a command that will print out the limerick dot text with all spaces converted to dashes. can use cat tr and a pipe. Well, that's a pretty good hint. Let's convert those spaces to dashes. Limerick, pipe it into tr and convert spaces to dashes. Demonstrate what one way that I like to use translate. There's something that we'll get into in the future weeks called the path variable. Now you can echo, which more appropriately would be called paths because there's more than one. Echo the value of any variable. User, that's me. I think host is one. No, maybe not. Anyway, so if I say echo, so it's kind of confusing to look at it like this, right? But if I do this and I send it through TR and I translate those colons to new line characters, then it gets a little more clear what paths is. It's a list of paths. Now, every time I type a command, so I'll say which echo am I using? It says user bin echo. So when I type a command, every time we type a command, this command interpreter, what it does is it looks through this list of paths. First, it looks at user local bin and says, is there an executable named echo? When I type echo, nope, there isn't. Then it looks in user bin and it finds one. So this is the program that's actually running when I run echo. Let's do the same thing. Which ls user bin ls. So it's in there. So if let's say I type a command that doesn't exist. So that means it looked through every single one of these one at a time for an executable command with this name and didn't find one. So little preview of what's happening, but I just thought I'd share that because it's a really practical use of a quick translating colon to new lines to just get a better view more intuitively of what that path variable is actually used for. And bring back the solution. We were just looking at the limerick. So there's your translate spaces to dashes in limerick if you want to make a note of that. I don't think it said to save the output as anything. Run a command that prints out lines 20 through 30 only with their corresponding line numbers from. So here's one you can use head, tail. You can also use something called sed, but I'll do head and tail first because in this case, sed is actually simpler, but overall it's a little more of a learning curve. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate a workflow that I like to do too with these things, like what I would actually do if I was working on this assignment. So rather than having to do a lot of context switching, select all that. Control. Oh no, I just wanted Control C. Sorry. So task. We start selecting. Continue my selection. The down arrow. Get that and Control C. Got it. And what is this? Lab 2. I'm going to go here and I'm just going to say cat I'm going to right click to paste all that in there, Control D. This isn't required. It's just a workflow that I like to do. So now I have all my instructions right here. So I don't have to toggle back and forth between the browser and my terminal. Run a command to print out lines 20 through 30 only and with their corresponding line numbers. And now here, this is another interesting thing that, so some of these, their previews not required, but some workflow that might be useful, and it won't hurt to learn it early. So Control Z to put something in the background. Now I'm back at my thing. I can say head. So first thing I'm going to need to do is number the lines, because I don't think the password has line numbers on it. So I'll use NL to number the lines. And then I'm going to pipe that into head. You get the first 30 lines. So I've got 30. Then I'm going to pipe that into tail. Keep the last 10. So now I've got lines 21 through 30. Now I can do FG to bring that thing that I put in the background into the foreground. Let's see, is that what I wanted? Print lines 20 through 30 only with their corresponding line numbers. Oh, and then here for printing line numbers, head or NL line, please don't use awk or sed commands. Okay, fine, no sed commands. So I won't complicate the issue with sed commands since we were asked not to. But I need lines 20 through 30. So I have an off by 1 problem, and what I actually need are the last 11 lines. Now I've got lines 20 through 30. Intuitively, like think maybe it's 10, but actually, since it wants both, it's 20 through 30 inclusive. That I'll just leave that at that, so you can check that. I guess it'll be in the video that I publish, so you can pause it to make sure you get that solution. And let's see, FG. Oh, I must have quit rather than Control Z. So this is a good type. This FG and Control Z, say man date. It's good if you have a manual page that you want to be able to reference. Okay, here's some dates. So then Control Z, you're working with a command. FG, you can bring back your reference. Notice I don't have to scroll down. It saves my place. So I can Q or Control Z, put it back. So that's a pretty common work pattern. Using Control Z to stop and put something in the background, and then FG foreground. Bring it back to the front. So I'm gonna hide this. Floating meeting controls just keep getting in the way. Okay, there we go. Run a command that will display only the unique usernames of users currently logged in. Put these in sorted order. So typically, this might sound a little weird, but users could be logged in more than one time. So it's by nature, usernames have to be unique. The users command may list the username more than once, so try displaying a username only once. Also use a pipe to try and get each name on a separate line. The new line character is -n. In sorted order. Okay. So users. So there's the users. Just like with the path, we're going to translate those spaces to new lines. Each user has its own line. Oh, and there's GD showing up twice. So there's a good example of our and then in case it looks like it is sorted, but let's not assume that. So we'll pipe it through sort just to ensure that when we do a unique, that like names are next to each other, and then we get the user on one line. Let's see what else was required in there. Looks like that's all there was for that one. Run a command that prints only the first column in the delimiter is a colon. Okay. Well, this one's pretty easy. So cut D colon F field 1. And there it is, the first line. Is there any sort requirement? So there's that one. So I'm not going to go through all of it with the script, but could say to
can you show me this one again? Run a command that will filter out all but those lines in the shape file that do not contain the word student.
yeah, that one's funny. Yeah, so how you can really think of this is rather than it says where it says filter out all but, those 4 words really logically twisted up. You could just think of that as run a command that will select those lines in the file that do not contain the word student.
Okay.
So filter out all but is really difficult language. And to answer that, it becomes pretty simple. So maybe and by that I don't mean it should be intellectually simple or obvious. What I mean is that the command is not very verbose. So grep, what we need to do is invert the match. So this means do not contain. That's all the lines that do not contain student. So the dash V just means invert the sense of matching. And that is the solution to that element.
Thank you.
And so here's, I'm not going to comprehensively do this, but I'll start it. CRIPT. Let's go through and do a couple of these things. Make sure you got that all set up. So I think it was who. No, darn it. W. See, another way without rather than user is just it expands to the same thing, but it's usually just easier for me to type $user than my whole name. So there's that one. And then I'll just do this one, GREP-V. Well, that's interesting. Oh, because I had an uppercase V rather than a lowercase v, it was just showing me version information and quitting. So there's that. I'm going to say exit. Files TypeScript, so I'm going to move TypeScript. So this is incomplete. For your assignments, you will actually do all of the commands and name it lab2.txt. Actually, let me see exactly what does it say to name it. commands2_lab.txt. Then go to your refresh this view. There it is. Grab that into downloads, I hope.
So I have a question.
Just a second. I'm going to wrap this up and then I'll take some questions. Then I'm going to go back to my lab 2, upload, submit anything that was kind of weird about it. You can write comments in there or just any comments about it. And that's it. That's the mechanics of doing lab 2. Okay, now I'm
So
gonna pause this video that it's recording and then get some more detail because I think that's a good place to stop